So here we are meeting each other once again for this special series called 100 Passages with 100 Percentiler. My unique goal here is to ensure that you and I start thinking alike. And today we plan to look at the second passage in this particular series. So once again, I welcome you to iQuanta's YouTube channel dedicated to your success as a B School aspirant. You know, we leave no stone unturned to ensure that you are able to move closer to your goal. हम बस हर टाइम यही सोचते रहते हैं कि हम क्या करें जिससे तुम्हारी जिंदगी आसान हो और तुम्हारे स्कोर्स better ho. So as a result, I think it's a fabulous idea to subscribe to this channel. Otherwise क्या होगा ना, वो कभी स्क्रॉल करते करते एक्सीडेंटली मिलोगे मुझसे, उसकी जगह प्लान्ड तरीके से मिलो ना. So subscribe karo, press the bell icon so that you turn the notifications on. And in case you do not know me, my name is Vikrant. I am a 100% and 100% Tyler in the VARC section of the CAT exam, and I know this exam inside out. So the agenda is very simple. I will take you through a passage and questions, right? So you will pause the video at every slide, read if it is a passage, solve if it is a question. And once you have solved them all, then you and I will work together where we will read the passage together first. We'll understand what the passage focuses on. We'll understand some tricky part or some nuance. So the idea is, if you and I have discussed something once, then that's it. That becomes yours for the rest of your life. So whenever you come across something similar, you'll be able to interpret it better. And then when we look at the questions, we'll of course focus on the techniques and the elimination approaches, etc. So here you go. The first slide, why don't you pause and then read it, and then I'll take you over to the next one. Okay, next. Pause. Next. Pause and read. All right, now that you have gone through the passage, let me take you over to the questions. So here is your question number 1. Now you may look at it and wonder 5 options and what is happening. So see, there are some exams where we do get 5 options. Okay, so we talk about NMAT, you talk about ZAT. For that matter, even the CAT exam for a couple of years went ahead and used 5 answer choices. So that is a format that I want you to be comfortable with, so that you're not taken aback when you suddenly see 5 options. It should be equally comfortable for you. So pause the video, answer this question, and then I'll take you over to the next one. Next. 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 So that's it. So you've gone through one passage with 5 questions. Hopefully you have answered all of these. And let's go ahead and start our work together, taking you back to the very first slide of the passage. So let's start reading it. Language is not a cultural artifact that we learn the way we learn to tell time or how the federal government works. Okay. So you're saying language is not a cultural artifact. Now, what exactly is an artifact? Artifact is an object, okay, such as a tool that was made in the past. So when we say language is not a cultural artifact, the author is saying that, language is not a tool that the culture built in the past. It is not a cultural artifact that we learn the way, and now there are these comparisons here. The way we learn to tell time. So, when you're born, you don't know how to look at a clock and figure out the time. Or you obviously, half of us, a lot of us even today wouldn't know how the federal government works. So these are things that you learn. You see, language is not a cultural artifact like these things. Instead, it is a distinct piece of the biological makeup of our brains. Language is a complex, specialized skill which develops in the child spontaneously. So notice, spontaneously, automatically. You don't even require an external impetus. Without conscious effort or formal instruction, is deployed without awareness of its underlying logic. So later on, for these entrance exams, there are times when we study grammar. And when we study grammar, we realize that there are so many rules and nuances and sequences and orders that we need to follow. But look at a child. Hasn't even gone to school yet and can still speak. So the child may not know what goes beneath those sentences, but is able to use it. And it is qualitatively the same in every individual. Now, what do you understand by qualitatively? Qualitatively basically means related to how good or bad something is. So, is qualitatively the same in every individual is that, it's more or less same for every individual, equally good or equally bad, whatever, and is distinct from more general abilities to process information or behave intelligently. So, it somehow suggests that people think language was created by people in the past and we go ahead and learn it, but the author says that's not the case. It is a part of our biological makeup. It is a complex, specialized skill, but you notice, develops spontaneously, no need for conscious effort, formal instruction. You don't even need to know the underlying logic. And yet it turns out to be same in this ability turns out to be same for everybody. It's qualitatively is distinct from some other abilities. Now, for these reasons, some cognitive scientists have described language as a psychological faculty. Now, what exactly is a faculty? Faculty has multiple meanings. One of the meanings is a natural I'd say, a natural ability to do something. So, for example, we have this faculty of hearing, faculty of vision. It's a natural ability to hear things, see things. Or faculty can at times also refer to a special ability to perform a particular thing. Right. So here we are saying language is a psychological faculty. So basically it is an ability of the mind. In fact, the author says it's a mental organ. So we can think of it as a dedicated part in the brain. Just like we have a heart, we have lungs, we probably have a language center in our mind that helps us work on language. A neural system. Neural is related to nerves or brain. So a system that utilizes our neurons or nerves or our brain and a computational module. Now, what exactly is a module? A module is a part of a whole that does something. So computational module is a part of a whole that computes something. So here when you say it's a computational module, there is a part in the brain that allows you to compute language or structure all those ideas, all those things in your mind. So some cognitive scientists think of language as these things, but the author says, but I prefer the admittedly quaint term instinct. Quaint basically means something which is charming or attractive because it is unusual, because it is old-fashioned. So say a lot of, there are some scientists who would probably describe language in this way, but the author says here, I prefer calling it an instinct. So it conveys the idea that people know how to talk in more or less the sense that spiders know how to spin webs. Look at this analogy here. So web spinning was not invented by some unsung spider genius and does not depend on having had the right education or on having an aptitude for architecture or the construction trades. Rather, spiders spin spider webs because they have spider brains, which give them the urge to spin and the competence to succeed. So the moment he called it an instinct and compared it just with spiders, it's like, is there somebody who teaches a spider how to spin a web? Does a spider have to go to a school, learn, and then it is able to spin a web? No. It's an instinct for them. They do it naturally without being consciously aware of it. And that's exactly how we, according to the author, use language. So, although there are differences between verbs and words, I will encourage you to see language in this way, for it helps to make sense of the phenomena we will explore. Okay. So, on the whole, the core point that the author has made in this particular paragraph is that language is not something that we learn. It is something that we are born with. It is an instinct that we have. And that's how he wants us to look at it. Next. Thinking of language as an instinct inverts the popular wisdom, especially as it has been passed down in the canon of the humanities and social sciences. So canon basically refers to a rule, a law, a principle in a particular area. Canon can also mean the writings that are generally agreed to be important or right. So basically, there are these books of humanities and social sciences which are considered good, which are considered important. According to those books, language is not an instinct. Okay, because when you think of it as an instinct, it inverts the popular wisdom, especially what is mentioned here. Language is no more a cultural invention than is upright posture. Now come to think of it. We have an upright posture, right? Our ancestors, the primates, used to walk on all the four, right? They'd use, obviously, all the four, the two hands, the two legs. In fact, they had four legs and they used to walk it. And then suddenly, human beings learned to walk upright. So, was it a cultural invention? The upright posture, where we are standing on our legs. What is culture? Culture is frequently repeated actions in a society. And then these actions make one society distinct from another. But then upright posture is common to every human being. So just one day we just learned to walk upright automatically. There is no third person who must have come to us and taught this to us, right? So similarly, that's how language is. So it's not a cultural, basically the core idea is it's not a cultural invention. It is not a manifestation of a general capacity to use symbols. So it is not even coming out of another ability, the ability to use symbols. So a 3-year-old, we shall see, is a grammatical genius. Absolutely, he's able to talk, but is quite incompetent at the visual arts. Visual arts require symbols. So visual arts is like painting. Then religious iconography. Religions also have used symbols, but a 3-year-old won't know it. Traffic signs. A child has to be taught. Red means stop and all that. So he learns. And the other staples of the semiotics curriculum. Now, semiotics basically means the study of signs and symbols. Okay. So the core point once again is, some people say that it comes out of a general capacity to use symbols, but the author says that's not true. Look at a 3-year-old. He does not know how to use or interpret symbols across various domains yet. He's a grammatical genius. So it means that language somehow is separate from it and does not depend on your ability to deal with symbols. Though language is a magnificent ability unique to Homo sapiens among living species, it does not call for sequestering the study of humans from the domain of biology. Okay, when you sequester means to separate. Sequester means to isolate. Remember, nowadays there is this talk of global warming and excess of carbon dioxide. So scientists are trying to discover different ways of sequestering the atmospheric carbon dioxide. So they want to suck out the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and then separate it in some chamber, in some other chemical somehow. So the author says, yes, language is a magnificent ability which is unique to humans, but it does not mean that you study human beings separately or give them a special treatment within biology. We say that, okay, they are different from every other living entity. Why? For a magnificent, for is used as because here, okay? Because a magnificent ability unique to a particular living species is far from unique in the animal kingdom. So he's saying that a particular species possessing a unique ability is not a unique trait in biology. What it means is that you'd find plenty of species that have a unique ability that no other species possesses. So, for instance, humans have this unique ability to use language, but then if we look at the examples further up, some kinds of bats home in on flying insects using Doppler sonar. Do we have this ability? Doppler sonar? No, that's unique to those bats. Some kinds of migratory birds navigate thousands of miles by calibrating the position of the constellation against the time of day and year. That's unique to them. In Nature's Talent show, we are simply a species of primate with our own act. So with our own unique ability, and that is a knack for communicating information about who did what to whom by modulating the sounds we make when we exhale. So when the air comes out, we are able to modulate it and produce sounds to communicate information. A lot of other species are not able to do it. We are good at it. But then there are these other species, they are also unique in their own way. So once you begin to look at language not as the ineffable essence of human uniqueness, man, what a beautiful turn of phrase. Ineffable means something that causes a lot of emotion, okay, especially pleasure, so much emotion that it cannot be described. So when you do not think of language as the essence of human uniqueness, and that too ineffable, so special, you're so emotional about it that you can't even tell how important it is to our core. But when you stop looking at it that way, but as a biological adaptation to communicate information, just like the bat using Doppler sonar, it is no longer as tempting to see language as an insidious shaper of thought. Now, this is a new idea. Now, see, insidious basically means something that is harmful, something that is destructive. Should I give you an example? It has a root word here, sid, which basically means sit, not moving. Insidious things are those things that harm us, but you don't even realize that they are harming us. They move so slowly, so stealthily that we don't realize it. For instance, you've heard of hypertension, high BP? It's called a silent killer. Seen that? Why? A lot of people have high BP. They don't even realize they have high BP, and by the time they realize it is very late. So, high BP / hypertension, insidious disease. So, similarly, the author says that, language somehow shapes our thoughts and it is considered harmful, dangerous. But the moment you look at it as a biological adaptation, you realize that it is not a dangerous thing which shapes our thoughts, and we shall see it is not. So the author says that in fact that is not even the case. It is not shaping our thoughts. Moreover, seeing language as one of nature's engineering marvels, an organ, remember in the first paragraph the author called it an organ with that perfection of structure and co-adaptation which justly excites our admiration. Yeah. So whenever you see something fabulous, when I was growing up, I loved watching these documentaries on different animals, particularly the ones that lived in ocean, because there are these animals that have color, animals that can produce light, animals with glorious plumage. So when you look at those things, you admire them, right? So saying similarly, you look at language and it's like that perfection of structure and co-adaptation. Co-adaptation basically means, in biology, co-adaptation is the process by which two things undergo adaptation as a pair or as a group. Those two things can be anything. They can be two organs, they can be two species or whatever. So in Darwin's words, gives us a new respect for your ordinary Joe and the much maligned English language. Okay, so when you look at language as an engineering marvel, it gives you a new respect for your ordinary Joe is a common man, that hey, even a common man possesses such an amazing ability in the much maligned English language or any language. So you look at it that way and you admire it. The complexity of language from the scientist's point of view is part of a biological birthright. Something which is a birthright is something that you're born with. So language, once again, throw back to the first paragraph where we are born with it, right? It's in our biology. It is not something that parents teach their children, or something that must be elaborated in school. As Oscar Wilde said, education is an admirable thing, but it is well to remember from time to time that nothing that is worth knowing can be taught. So language is very important. You learn it even without going to school. And there is a quote by Oscar Wilde to increase the entertainment and engagement quotient. But I do agree with it. Look at it. That nothing that is worth knowing can be taught. So everything which is worth knowing has to be learned by you on your own. A preschooler's tacit knowledge of grammar. Tacit is unsaid. Knowledge of grammar is more sophisticated than the thickest style manual. So you'd find a lot of books that talk about style, where they teach you grammar and they teach you some nice ways of arranging your words to create fabulous sentences. They're called style manuals, and they're saying that even a preschooler's knowledge is more sophisticated than the style manual or the most state-of-the-art computer language system. So preschooler is better than these. And the same applies to all healthy human beings, even the notorious syntax fracturing professional athlete. Okay, hang on. So, athletes are also at times called jocks. And there is this popular notion that athletes are not good at studying. And when they speak, the sentences that they create may not be right. So you realize in English we have something called a syntax, a subject, a verb, an object. You're supposed to arrange all those words in the right sequence, in a grammatically correct order. But then an athlete normally is not good at it. He'll fracture that syntax. He may not use those standard structures. But the author says that the same applies, this ability of grammar, language applies to all human beings, including these guys who would probably be fracturing the syntax and now this is fun. That is how a lot of people who are not good at communication speak, and like inarticulate teenage skateboarder. So even those who are not using language well, even they have this fabulous and magnificent ability. They can still talk, they can still communicate. Finally, since language is the product of a well-engineered biological instinct, we shall see that it is not the nutty barrel of monkeys that entertainer columnists make it out to be. Now, nutty barrel of monkeys is an idiom which means very funny and enjoyable. So language is not a very funny and enjoyable thing that a lot of columnists would have you believe. So let's go ahead and start with the question. So the first one, according to the passage, which of the following does not stem from popular wisdom on language? So basically 4 of these are the popular notions of language. One of these is not a popular notion, and that has to be our answer. So let's see. Language is a cultural artifact. Yes, it is how people popularly look at it. This, in fact, was the very first sentence. So the author has written the passage to tell us that language is an instinct. How did it start? It is not a cultural artifact. So people may think of it as cultural artifact. People think of it as cultural invention. He's given examples at different places. Let me, once again, if I take you back, cultural artifact. Okay, then thinking of languages especially has been passed down. It is no more a cultural invention than is. So people may think it is a cultural invention, but it is not. Language is learned as we grow. Popular wisdom says that it is acquired. The author argues that is not the case. It is an instinct. Language is unique to Homo sapiens. Yes. Last paragraph. Popular notion. Second and third paragraph both. Language is a psychological faculty. Is it a popular piece of wisdom? Let me take you back to the place where it is mentioned. So here it is. Now, some cognitive scientists describe it as a psychological faculty. So a term that is used by, forget some, if there is a term that is used by just the scientists, can we call it popular? And within scientists, they are cognitive scientists. So not all scientists, but cognitive scientists. They're not all cognitive scientists either. some cognitive scientists. So definitely not something that can be termed a part of popular wisdom, and that is why our answer here has to be E. This is something that we very clearly know is not a part of popular wisdom but is used only by some cognitive scientists. So that is why E. Then next, which of the following can be used to replace the spiders know how to spin webs analogy as used by the author? So why did the author use the analogy? The author said that, see, I look at language as an instinct. For example, spiders weave webs, don't have to go to school. So essentially, this analogy was basically there to prove that language is an instinct. It is something that you do not consciously learn. It is something that you are born with. It is something that is automatic for you. You won't have to learn it or whatever. So if we don't want to use this analogy but some other analogy, we basically need to pick up some other species engaging in some particular act which is not learned, which is something that you're born with. So let's see, a kitten learning to jump over a wall. So kitten, yes, but jumping over a wall, is it something that they're born with? They can walk, they can run, but can they just jump over a wall? I don't know. So let's keep it in running. Bees collecting nectar. Well, bees collecting nectar, nobody has to tell them to collect nectar. One fine day, they just fly, they just go to a flower and they know exactly what they need to do. So yeah, this is a great fit. A donkey carrying a load. Have you seen a donkey carrying a load in nature? Humans do that to them. Humans teach them this. A horse running a derby, a race, a show. Humans. In nature, they won't do that. They have to be trained for it. A pet dog protecting its owner's property. Again, something that has to be taught. So I think the confusion can be at the best between A and B. But in B, we very clearly know that we don't have to teach them how to take nectar. But in A, jumping is definitely going to come naturally to a cat, or so I hope. Jumping over a wall, I'm not that sure. And therefore, that makes B a better answer choice than A. So that is why we should go ahead and opt for B. Let's go ahead and dive into our next question. According to the passage, which of the following is unique to human beings? Ability to use symbols while communicating with one another. Is this unique? We don't know. It is not something that has been said anywhere in the passage. Ability to communicate with each other through voice modulation. This is stated. In case you don't recall this, let me take you back. Here or here? Here. So, we are talking about unique abilities, right? Humans communicate, but then we have a unique ability. So do other species that have some other unique abilities. And then look at what it says here. In nature's talent show, we are simply a species of primate with our own act. Where here, talent show, act, it's a metaphor, right? So act here is our unique ability. So what is our unique ability? A knack for communicating information about who did what to whom, ignore it all. A knack for communicating by modulating the sounds we make when we exhale. So that's voice modulation. So that is something that is unique to us for sure, according to the passage. Ability to communicate information to other members of the species. Now, it's not about communication, it is about communication in the way in which we use it. So you can rule that out. Ability to use sound as means of communication. Maybe there are other species that are using sounds, but they do not modulate it the way we do. And therefore, since C was very easy to rule out, so E automatically gets ruled out. So if I have to look at A, B and D, I realize that B is mentioned as it is, as a unique ability. Not as it is, but then using a different set of words, as a unique ability, and therefore that has to be our best answer choice here. Okay. So B it is. Then the next one. According to the passage, complexity of language cannot be taught by parents or at school to children because. Why can't it be taught? Because it is something, remember, it's an instinct, because we are born with it, right? It's not something that is learnt anyway. So, keeping that in mind, which option should we choose? In fact, if you go back to the third paragraph, remember the term that was used was biological birthright. First paragraph uses instinct. Then there is a scientist's point of view that language cannot be taught. So let's look at it. Children instinctively know language. Yes, something that you instinctively know does not need to be taught. Children learn the language on their own. It is not something that you learn. It is, so remember that spider analogy. You don't learn to weave a web. You're born with it. You have a spider brain, so you weave. You have a human brain, so you speak. Language is not amenable to teaching. So, complexity of language cannot be taught because language is not amenable to teaching, but schools are teaching it. So to say it is not amenable to teaching will be wrong. Children know language better than their teachers or parents? No. Qualitatively, all of us are the same. That's not the reason why it can't be taught. Children are born with the knowledge of semiotics? No, this in fact contradicts the passage. We are not born with the ability to interpret symbols. There have been multiple examples given in the second paragraph to disprove it. So the best answer choice is option A. And with that, let me take you over to the last question. Here you go. Which of the following best summarizes the passage? So, there is only one point that the author has repeatedly made, and that is language is an instinct. We are born with it. It need not be taught. So, which one? Language is unique to Homo sapiens, neither learnt nor taught. Is that the main idea here? Language is not a cultural invention or artifact as it is made out. Maybe. Language is instinctive ability of human beings. Fantastic. Now you notice, for a brief while I was tempted by C, because when you say language is instinctive ability, then language is not a cultural invention or artifact is another way of saying that. But you notice a very crucial difference between C and D. D talks about humans. C does not mention humans. So that suddenly changes the scope of the passage. So can be eliminated. E, language is use of symbols unique to human beings. Use of symbols. Modulation, voice modulation, not symbols. So even this is out of scope, and therefore the best answer should be D. So that takes care of the passage, but here is something for your mind. So a lot of people throw their garbage at us. A lot of people tell us we can't achieve great things, but the truth is you can. So do not allow anybody to pull you down. Please remember that you have it in you. You can do it. So that's it from me. I look forward to meeting you in our next passage in the next discussion. Until then, don't forget to stay in touch. Let me know if we can help you in any other way. And once again, please subscribe to the channel, press the bell icon. And if you like working with me, like the video too. Take care.